You're in a point of suspension. You may be sort of stuck or you're waiting for something. And you're also sort of in a situation where your Christ consciousness is expanding because your circulation system obviously would be upended by this experience. So I do recommend some inversions if you're a yogi. If not, maybe you're just having experiences where you're seeing from a different point of view. You're walking in other people's shoes. You know, there's a Native American saying, "Don't judge a man until you walk 2 moons in his shoes." And as you're waiting, you're thinking and you're clarifying and you're trying to find things about yourself that you don't mind. You're trying to find compassion for yourself and others in this waiting time, in this in-between moment. I've sort of taken the pressure off to make these videos all at once because, as I said, I don't really have a following, and that's kind of freeing. Although I do tend to get actual views on TikTok, which does make me feel pressured, and on Instagram, but that's all very new to me because I'm used to being anonymous here. But I was gonna say, if you want to check me out there, you can. But so I'm just gonna do a little energy read before the reading. I think there's like a collective energy, if we think of it as related to the Hanged Man. There is something like, sorry, that's just my dog. She's doing this with her toy. I don't know. It's like a safety thing. She likes to. I'm not sure. I think she's nursing it like it's a mother. Anyway, there's something in the energy that's like, I can't explain it. It's like a restlessness. It's like a feeling like you have energy to put towards some sort of work or project, but the project isn't really appearing before you. And I posted some Tony Robbins stuff, which I don't really, I'm not a materialist. I'm an anti-materialist. I'm a minimalist. But except for in terms of hoarding art that I make and crafts. But besides that, like, they do talk a lot about like, oh, I really wanted a Porsche and like I didn't think I could make it, so then I did, and I was like so proud of myself. But it's like, that's like stupid, like, sorry, male toxic positivity. But I mean, how many of us women really care about a Porsche? Like, I don't know, maybe you do. I feel like women would care more about fashion if they had the money, or some nice car that's like, Porsche, are they really that reliable, or that like, do they make that much sense? Anyway, how many people can you fit in there? Anyway, it's just like women's goals isn't to go, their goals aren't to go really fast in a Porsche, but the energy is just sort of like similar to that Tony Robbins video that I posted, which was like somebody really having a lot of energy towards wanting to manifest something, and it's not appearing, and it's sort of like frustration and how do I make my schedule work so that I can work on my goals? Because you may be someone who feels like they don't have enough time in the day, but just know that you can only do one thing at a time. I used to have a friend who was really into just sort of like, she had like multiple talents, like crafting. I can't even explain. She was really good at like a bunch of, I'll say, crafting and artistic projects. And I once asked her, like, how do you like do all these different things? Because I also am like someone who has multiple interests. I play music, I write, I am a painter, I do a lot of craft oriented projects as well, and just other stuff. But she said, well, you can only do one thing at a time, so do what you're doing while you're doing it, and like really be involved. And I really took that to heart. She was a Gemini, and Geminis are of course good at like multiple things, like multiple situations happening at once, being multitaskers, or just good with the hands. But what was I gonna say? Like, that's all well and good, but what if you feel like you have so many things going on? I was also thinking about Scorpios, just because I'm a Scorpio and I obsessively think about why I do the things I do, has like a hypnotic focus power, and that may be something that's happening now. I'm not sure where I got that from. It's just like there's nothing happening like that would denote that in the astrology. We are coming into Jupiter and Leo soon, which is like a change that's happening. And it just honestly is going to push people to speak up and be seen, to be in the spotlight. It's going to affect everyone's houses differently. But in terms of the collective, it's sort of like seeing that child self as important. Like what things did you tell yourself when you were a kid that you couldn't do, or that didn't matter, or some dreams of creativity and perhaps romance that you felt like weren't possible, are sort of pushing themselves really into your experience, because whatever Jupiter hits becomes bigger. So a lot of possibility for creativity right now. And that's why I'm sort of suggesting that with the energy, instead of being so frustrated that you're not where you want to be, use the moon and Capricorn energy to pinpoint where you do want to be. Write the steps. This is some Napoleon Hill stuff. Write the steps that it would take to get there, and then start walking. And the thing is, as you walk towards it, you'll see that your goals may change and the ways to get there may change, but you have to start with that map. And I'm hearing the word map as being important. Also with the energy, I'm just feeling that like the pineal gland is really important for people to, I don't even know where that's coming from, to just like focus on, and the thyroid gland. So that's like stress and hormone levels. If we're stressed, it affects everything in the body. And it's like, sometimes you're like, how can I help not be stressed? Especially, I understand that so well. I have an autoimmune disorder, which it's debated whether it's really caused by stress. But I would say, don't beat yourself up when you do get stressed. Just try to work in things into your daily practice, your daily life and routine and ritual that will bring those stress levels down. And I recommended in the intro doing some restorative, or I recommended doing inversions, which would be like in yoga, either headstand, handstand, or there's a bunch of ways you could do it, mini tripod. But yeah, and now to the reading. You're in a point of suspension. You may be sort of stuck, or you're waiting for something. And you're also sort of in a situation where your Christ consciousness is expanding, because your circulation system obviously would be upended by this experience. So I do recommend some inversions if you're a yogi. If not, maybe you're just having experiences where you're seeing from a different point of view. You're walking in other people's shoes. There's a Native American saying, don't judge a man until you walk 2 moons in his shoes. And as you're waiting, you're thinking and you're clarifying, and you're trying to find things about yourself that you don't mind. You're trying to find compassion for yourself and others in this waiting time, in this in-between moment. Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning into my tarot channel. My name's Paulina, and I have a reading for you today. So I took some notes, and I did some automatic writing with spirit or source or God before. I'm just going to use the terms that I like. So I did some automatic writing or channeled writing with spirit, which includes spirit guides, people who've passed on, people we've known and people we don't know, who have energy to share with us. And what I do during automatic writing is just shut off my brain, and it's very different than journaling, which I also do. So I just sort of write. I do use my dominant hand, my right hand, and I just sort of let whatever comes out come out, phrases, sentences. It's stream of consciousness, and I believe that it has messages for us from us meaning the collective, from people who have passed on that love us. Excuse my dirty shirt. I was just hiking with my dog and I got dirt on me. People who have passed on and are hoping will expand with the information. Also just people who are hopping on our expansion, and just maybe not even people, just energies, spirits, spirit guides. Okay, so first card, I'm going to try to weave what I wrote in, and I know that the way I work, usually I have the reading in my mind before the cards are pulled. So I've got the energy, so the cards will align with my writing. I'm gonna turn the AC on and try to talk louder. I'll probably turn it on and off, but it's super hot today. Anyway, so the six, since that just came to mind, I really believe in the subconscious part of these readings. Like, you know, is there something with the number 6? 6 can be about romance. It can be, because it relates to Venus, it can be about, you know, romantic partnership. 6 can also be, you know, it is the number 3, but 2 times. So I don't know if there's like something that you feel like you're missing, you know, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Are you missing some piece of something? Are you missing some integral piece of the puzzle? And also, sorry, that was a little weird with the numbers, but just roll with me and how I think about numbers. Also, 6 really means sextile, so I don't know if there's like something that you're looking to like maybe meet some new people, or you will be. So it is actually a 4 of Swords reversed. So when it's reversed, it's about coming out of a rest period. You've been resting and now you're ready to share what you've learned in this time of rest. And also the 4 of Swords can be about resting the mind, particularly, I'm being called to say. You know, taking a break from the mental sphere, which is often so articulated, is what I want to say. Sorry, somebody's really upset. You may have been dealing with some frustration, like just driving around, but I wrote down in my notes, I'll try to, so I wrote down the second time, or I didn't write second time's a charm, but now I'm thinking it. I wrote second time not upset. So I think there's something that I was just thinking because the honking of someone frustrated. Maybe you're going through an experience where like micro and macro, you've been through this before, and now you are like, well, there's no use in crying over spilt milk, you know? You're sort of like, I'm not going to get upset, and I get what I get, and I don't get upset. That's coming through. Like maybe somebody said that to you in your childhood, and you know, sometimes I feel like that would be a negative thing to say, but also I feel like you're sort of making do with what you have. And yeah, there may be just like a situation that in the past it caused a lot of frustration, like and you had like a freaking breakdown because it was happening. It caused so much stress, but then you looked at how much stress you were under, like globally in your life, like in terms of all the stress and all the things, you realize that you're not dealing with your stress. And by the time this happened again, you were like much more able to handle it. And this may be something small, like I'm just thinking particularly of losing something important that may be coming through the energy. Maybe you lost something that you've lost before, but this time you didn't have a conniption because you've been managing your stress better. And or maybe you're just in a bigger situation where you're like, I've definitely been in this situation before, and you're like, I'm not gonna push against it, I'm just gonna let it be. And you maybe surprised yourself with your reaction. And this is obviously, or maybe not obviously, it's about seeing through illusions. I related to Pisces, which can be about sort of negative. The negative side of Pisces can be having dreams that we don't actualize. And a lot of Pisces can become bitter as, you know, life goes on, because they are people who are masterful at many things, and they may decide as they age that they don't have the energy actually to do some of the things, because Pisces is about sleep. It relates actually to the 4 of Swords. And you can look at your sleeping patterns by looking at your 12th house, and or just where Pisces sits in your chart. How are your sleeping habits? You know, how do you dream? And also dreaming, not just in terms of sleeping, but dreaming in terms of what we want in our lives. But there's something that you're seeing through a fantasy, and it's taken a long time. Maybe a multiple of 7, like maybe 7 months, 7 years, or 14 months. Or, you know, I'm just feeling like that around there, like 14 months, and then maybe 7 months. These are like integers for like you realizing something was not up to snuff, and it wasn't like exactly what you wanted, and it could be relational. I'm feeling here that it was like, you're like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to keep being in the role you want me in, is what I want to say. Okay, I wrote down Sonia Choquette, which psychic pathway, which relates to what I was talking about with Pisces, because Pisces is about creating, imagining, and then letting it manifest, and they're masterful at this. Anyone who is in Pisces is really skilled at imagining what they want and then letting it manifest and building it around them. That's why they're really good artists, because they're capable of connecting with divine wisdom to make something beautiful. I'm just hearing again, if you build it, they will come. That keeps coming up. It's been coming up in my readings for months. It's from the Kevin Costner movie where he builds, it's called Field of Dreams. He builds a baseball field in the middle of nowhere, and people do come, and it creates community and all these things. But there's something like that you are not seeing, or you have not seen your role in society and community, and you're being like highlighted with Jupiter and Leo. And this is not just for whoever's watching, this is for the collective, that people's stuff, like, as I said in the intro, it can be about looking at the child, the inner child, and really validating that inner child, because whatever Jupiter touches becomes bigger, and Leo is childhood, being a child, being a kid. And then also, like, you know, there could just be a situation here where you are, sorry, I'm getting a little off. I'm just going to slow down for a little bit. You're being like highlighted, okay? And I mentioned the psychic pathway, Sonia Choquette, because it's a really good workbook for people who are just becoming aware of their psychic abilities. And for people who are not aware, it may be scary or intimidating. You know, you may be like, am I schizophrenic? Or like, am I feeling energy that's not there? Like, is this real? And I'll tell you, it is real. And as you go forward in your life, there's going to be more signs or synchronicities that are trying to smack you or wake you up to how intuitive you really are. So Sonia Choquette, it's a great book. You can buy it, I think, for like $10. And it's like, it'll download as a PDF if you want to do it digitally, which I recommend. And you can just put it on your phone. And it's the psychic pathway, or as an audiobook, it's great. It has workbook sort of things. I'm also being called to talk about The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, which is a great book, and specifically the exercise where she has people draw their childhood bedroom. So that's just coming to mind with some of the Jupiter and Leo stuff. But yeah, so you're being called to stand up and use these skills. I wrote down inner visions because I heard a Stevie Wonder song this morning, and it was, I'll be loving you always until the thunder. I don't know those songs. Until in the sky. Always, always. I was like a big Motown fan, and that was like a huge entry point for me as a kid. So Inner Visions, I actually don't know if that's from that album, but I was thinking of the cover of Inner Visions, and it's just a great cover. He's like in the desert wearing this like cool sort of Native American shirt that's reminiscent of like Native Americans that lived in the West and, you know, lived in the mesas there, which are rock slabs or rock plateaus. I'm also being called to talk about petroglyphs, which are the signs and symbols that those Native Americans made. Anyway, but I think it's the Hopi Indians. It's a different part of the U.S., not where I'm in the Northeast. But he's wearing a shirt that's reminiscent of these tribes, and also he's just like meditating and sort of smiling, and it's called Inner Visions. But you know, he's obviously blind, Stevie Wonder, and it's sort of alluding to, I don't know, is he a Pisces? He may have Pisces in his chart. Sort of alluding to like, just like the power within, that he's thinking of all these songs in part because his hearing power is so like sensitive because he's blind. There's something like that keeps coming in my readings, because I talked about the ear in the Ten of Wands in a recent short, and no one ever talks about that little ear that you see with the guy holding the Ten of Wands. But to me, it makes me think how burdens or tough things are actually meant to help us hear spiritually. And yeah, I'm thinking of Inner Visions and Stevie Wonder because it's something like that for you. It's something that is like, maybe it's been unfair in your life, and we all have things like this. Some of them are visible and some of them aren't. And you know, something's been like taken from you. And I listened to a reading recently, and that when I heard someone say a similar thing, they were talking about someone who took things from you, which hit me really hard in my solar plexus chakra, and I was like, ooh. And I don't know why, but I feel like that's an energy for you. Like, you feel like things have been taken from you, or like something hasn't been fair in your life, and you've gotten like, not a fair shake at something, and for example, or the cards have been stacked against you, and it's all just so that you can hear more clearly. And it actually did come up in an earlier reading where I talked about how I have some indigenous South American Indian blood on my father's side. Both my grandparents are from South America, and so I've researched the Mapuche Indians extensively, and some of the music is very discordant, and I believe it, in my mind, it's ceremonial, and it's meant to not just be happy listening music. It's supposed to like wake you up spiritually. So something like that here, where it's been tough, it's been hard, but it's also just making you hear, as in terms of like intuition and like what your soul's path is, way sharper. So yeah, inner visions. I'm circling everything as I say it because I don't want to cross it out. It feels so negative. I recently went to the Pequannock hiking area in Trumbull, which is like this long strip in the woods by a river, and it's very interesting because I was reading that the term Pequannock means like cleared area or something, and so they used to have these like ritualistic brush fires on the forest floor in that area to make like a clear path or clear space for people to walk through the forest in like Native American times, which is like really advanced and takes a real knowledge of the forest to make a controlled brush fire that like doesn't get out of control. So there's something like that here in your energy where you're like clearing space, and I'm also just seeing like a peace pipe celebration with elders. Feeling some energy some guys come through the reading now, but there's something about clearing out the old so that you can make way for the new, which is the basic thing. But sometimes when we're in our lives and we're going through the cycles, it feels so hard to do that. We're like, no, I like this tree, or I like this little like bunch of bushes, and it's like, no, like you have to get rid of those bushes so that we can walk through the forest more safely or more clearly, or like with a group, is what the Pequannock tribe would say. So I'm calling you to just, I'm not saying commit arson with your life, but do some like mindful burning. And as I talk about like just the fuel or fire that comes from a fire, like, just the fire energy, some fire signs, maybe watching Aries, Leo, Taurus, that came out of nowhere. Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Also, I guess some Taurus people could be watching. But I'm an Aries rising, so it relates to my energy. And people would be surprised, but Jan Spiller says that really the fire signs are intuition. And people would say, oh, no, that's the water signs. They're the spiritual ones. But actually, the fire signs act on that impulse, that sort of inner fire or inner flame. So the Aries is birth or life force energy, like the Big Bang explosion, and then Leo is the child or artist that plays. It's the artist or child that plays with that fire and creates something interesting, creates art, creates fun, creates playful energy. And then Sagittarius holds up the torch so we can see humanity and better, okay? So we can see through the light of knowledge and wisdom what is what. And if you've got some younger fire, I'm being called to say this, if you've got younger fire sign in your chart, you feel kinship with the older fire signs, but you also maybe feel like you're being told what to do. I know for myself, I'm an Aries rising. Anytime I used to interact with this Sagittarius friend of mine in the past, he would tell me that I don't know shit, basically. because it's also Sagittarius is a sign after Scorpio, so there's some semi-sextile tension there in terms of competition. But truly, I guess I'm saying some of these older signs can have some sort of wisdom where it's harder to relate to the younger signs. That may be a dynamic here where there's just someone in your life that you feel close to, that it's like it's a little hard to relate. This could be like a child or just any relationship. It's a little hard to see the bridge beyond the age gap. I'll be loving you always until the something in the sky. Always, always. Yeah, I feel like there's some sort of devotional element here. There's somebody that is like devoted to you, and that's really nice. And I think that it's just sort of, whether it's an older relationship or a newer relationship, over time it's gonna be more clear to you that there's somebody that, you know, they're picking up what you're putting down, and they're on your side. And there may be something where it's like you feel like the world is against you, but I'm just hearing that again. They're on your side. Sorry, there's sirens